It's Soleil, and this is episode 473 of the Orange Pill Investor. That was a special request. I actually forgot to connect my AirPods, so I hope I don't screw up the sound. All right, I think I'm good. Yeah, that was special request from Dana, and it's going to fit very, very well in today's. That was Killing in the Name, played on children's instruments. And so that was kind of a lighthearted way to start out this episode, but this might be the biggest bummer of an episode I have ever recorded. So trigger warning, I guess, because the CP in CPTC stands for exactly what you think it means. And so Mechanic has been sounding the alarm on the second and third order effects and unintended consequences of what core version 30 might mean when they just allow way larger file sizes. Just use your imagination and think of the worst possible images that you can think of that might be included in a transaction. Like, it's all fun and games when it's fucking monkey butts and dumbass JPEGs. But what do you think the value of your BTC treasury company becomes when it turns into a CPTC, right? You're stacking a bunch of sats, and lo and behold, those sats are attached to images of CSAM. It's not going to be a good fucking look. Let's put it that way. One of the arguments that I heard someone make on Twitter, and they really thought they fucking dropped the mic. They're like, oh yeah, the free market solves this. And if you don't want people putting these images on the blockchain, then you just have to outbid them for the block space. Like, oh, okay, yeah, let the free market decide. And that just kind of sounds like ransom, right? If you kidnap somebody and you're like, okay, you're never gonna see this person again unless you pay the fucking ransom, right? That's what outbidding CP images would mean. Somebody wants to include that shit in a fucking block, and I'm just supposed to pay them not to do it, and really, what does that incentivize? That's like, okay, if I paid this ransom, now just increase the price. So what's the theoretical limit on the ransom to keep CP off the fucking blockchain? How much would you pay to protect everything divided by 21 million? It's infinite. So it's not just like a one-time thing. And as soon as somebody attempts it and gets away with it, it's like fucking off to the races at that point. So, and then I saw some other bullshit FUD about, Mechanic was being inflammatory. I can't remember who directly mentioned it, but if you are the developer on V30 and you're the ones that enable the CP to be put onto the blockchain, should you face criminal prosecution? And some people were saying, oh, you're just trying to, you're definitely trying to censor people now because you're trying to threaten them with arrest. Well, last time I fucking checked, the only cure for that kind of predator is like being burned at the stake. So I think you should count your blessings that the only thing you might face is criminal prosecution. And it just makes me wonder, like, how many mining rigs would it take to light a person on fire, to light a pedo on fire? These are the burning questions of the day. And you can say it's literally and figuratively being burned at the stake, right? Because even if even if no one is actually prosecuted, or even if no one suffers physical harm in retaliation for breaking Bitcoin, um, you know, it's what happens in that game theory, right? So let's say, all of the custodians that I'm aware of for all these Bitcoin treasury companies, they're all using Core. Now, if they upgrade to 30 and they're complicit in Bitcoin becoming devalued, and I'm not saying necessarily it goes to zero, but we're all trying to figure out what the next black swan is. And I just assumed it would be something like Tether, right? Okay, there's a bunch of paper Bitcoin, or maybe some of the treasury companies are confiscated by the government. It's just going to be one of these things. And this one kind of caught me off guard. It was like, oh yeah, this makes sense, right? We're hitting all-time highs and we're like, yeah, we're going to go to 1 million. And then some fucking asshole manages to get CP on the blockchain. Like, what happens to your God candle in that scenario? But what happens to your company if you were complicit in that, right? You weren't running knots, and you weren't refusing to relay these transactions, and you were just like, whatever, the free market decides. It's just ones and zeros. Who cares? When Bitcoin takes a dump and all the Bitcoin treasuries values take a dump because you're stacking devalued sats, those custodians are going to be thrown under the bus, and the Bitcoin treasury companies will just go find a new custodian that's running knots, and they'll have to go through the whole public relations debacle. So this is kind of like a shot across the bow for custodians that just want to go along to get along and are not taking knots seriously. So just be aware that you will be sacrificed if it means protecting shareholder value. And this might be the last thing that I'll say about it, is that they're saying that, as long as it passes consensus, it's a legit financial transaction. But I think one of the points that Mechanic was trying to make is that you can use money to pay for illegal activities. Even it's something that we don't think should be illegal, like buying drugs or whatever. And so, paying for illegal activity with a dollar bill doesn't make the dollar illegal. It's still legal tender no matter what. However, if you replace George Washington's face with frickin' CP, now receiving or paying someone with that dollar bill is now illegal. It doesn't matter if you were paying them for a frickin' stick of gum at the 7-Eleven. You are now in possession of and, delivering illegal material to another person. So the ones and zeros fucking argument is kind of pisses me off a little bit. And then they'll say, but you have to use some kind of software to reconstitute the image. Well, it doesn't matter if I fold the dollar bill in half so that you can't see it. Like, it's still there. And all you got to do is unfold the damn piece of paper to view it. So that, I think the rant is over. So maybe we can talk about better things. So if you didn't get the connection, that playing Killing in the Name with child instruments, I thought was pretty appropriate in case we have to burn some child predators at the stake. Let's see, what's up, Keith? That Strive put credit spread is still getting hefty fills. The 1017 sell to open 5, buy to open 250. I got fills at 220 yesterday. That's wild. I wonder how long that's going to continue, because I'm kind of guessing I'm going to have to hold that to very close to expiration. B-Stomp says, so true, CP must stay off the blockchain. Obviously, I agree. Tim Downing, yeah, this raises the stakes even higher on spam. Yeah, it's one thing to just argue about spam, but it's another thing to argue about CSAM. Anyway, let's just take a look at the frickin' market. I mean, strategy is just holding steady, so probably not going to be much that needs to happen here. This has been open for 15 days, so it is getting close. Actually, I can probably roll this. 441 would be the target, so 467 is probably fine. So let's just go ahead and roll these bad boys. And let me turn the volume down. And I'm just going to go to a nice whole number and just roll this up to 400. All right. All right, so that's rolled out to 44 days to expiration. And I might as well just do it all. Like, this is very close as well. Technically, what, 397 or something would be perfect. But let's just go ahead and roll them. And I already have those, I'll just roll these to the, well, let me make sure this is a legit roll. So I've got 250 strikes plus the value gets me to 395. So I could roll this as low as like a 395 strike. Unfortunately, the 300s got devalued quite a bit more. So I would need to roll approximately the 415 strike here. So halfway between the 395 and the 415 is the 405. So let's roll these to the 405. And that'll keep them one strike off of my covered calls. That way I'll be able to keep them a little bit separate as well. No insta-fill. Just put it back in for a couple cents cheaper. There we go. All right, so let's actions, ungroup, and regroup. All right, so I knocked my, what did I collect about? 20 times 5, maybe 10 grand, close to 10. Which basically pays for the withdrawal that I made. So I kind of can't help myself but to add a few long positions every time I sell my short positions. The Januaries are already down to 135 days, which means there's only 45 days left on these before I would consider rolling them. So I'm already kind of giving up hope on my, see, March only goes up to 910 strike. So let me look at April. Oh, that's even worse. So let's do March. Oh, that's the 920 string. Well, let's flip February. Oh, I already picked up some February. All right, March it is. I'll grab a 910. Just gonna dip a toe. If strategy shits the bed, then maybe I'll dollar cost average into the March. Yeah, so I'm slowly losing hope on my Decembers because I only have about 17 days left before my my rule says that I should roll them. So go Bitcoin. Let's go to 150 tomorrow. Please, K, thanks. All right, the IRA. Same. Might as well just make this a roll day. And I will go, yeah, we'll just keep it at the 400 strike. All right, Tesla is doing well, so that means my covered call is not. So I will just sit and wait. And that gave me 3,500 to play with. So this is the IRA, so I can't use any margin here. So there's no margin use for me to try to get rid of. So in this scenario, I will go ahead and go as long as possible. And so if I want to get rid of all of these positions, maybe by January, then I could look at April. But April only goes up to the 675 strike. That's annoying. So maybe March. These are the ones I just picked up, right? All right. So I got 3,600 bucks. They're approximately 600 a piece, so that should be 6 of them. No fill. I guess I got to go up to 595. Done deal. Same here. I might as well just make this roll day. Oh, but let me make sure it's safe. So I have pretty aggressive strikes here. I got the 350. So I could sell the 395 or higher. So yeah, I'll just stick with the 400s. And this is my personal account. So I'm trying to be as aggressive as humanly possible in this one. So I will spend the 1,300. Yeah, this one is the one that I already went out to March. So let me get another one. 1,300, but I can't get two, unfortunately. What does that leave me? 600 bucks. Let's see what I can get in February. There we go. All buying power spent. All right, so I sold them some fairly aggressive covered calls in this account at the 357, and it's still basically worth what I sold them for. So nothing to do here but sit and wait for 2 more trading days. But again, I might as well just make this a roll day. Damn it, I still need to check. All right, so these are poor man's covered calls. I've got some 200 strikes that are worth 160. So as long as I'm selling the 360 or higher, add the two together, that should be in the safe range. But I've got some 250s worth 120. So that's 370. Yeah. So rolling to the 390. I'm going to roll it up one for a slightly smaller credit, just to make sure I capture all of the expected move. That puts 1,900 in my pocket, which means that I should be able to buy something. Huh, interesting. My January 1080s are somehow miraculously not losing money. That's cool. All right, so the Marches, weren't the Marches 600 bucks? Was it the Februaries? Yeah. So I should have just enough to get 3 of them. Yeah. Okay, money spent. This is probably the only account that actually has positive theta because of the aggressive nature of the weeklies. There's a ton of theta here. Yeah, if I didn't have these weeklies, I'd be drawing very negative theta because of these bad boys. These December 1080s are hemorrhaging moolah. Tim says, a trading therapist, what would you say to a new covered call seller whose MSTR cost basis is about 406? It's hard for me to sell a call with a strike price below that. Yeah, if you that is definitely a concern, especially this Friday we may learn that S&P 500 inclusion may happen. So a binary event like that is a risk. It might make sense if you're not comfortable losing your shares or dealing with it. Maybe at least waiting for that to happen, because if they get approval and then the front running begins and you're selling the 405 strike, that could leave a bad taste in your mouth. However, I mean, I was able to sell the 45 DTE around there, right? This is meaningful premium at your cost basis. So at the 405 would guarantee that you don't lose money, but you'd be capping your upside. You know, if you got called away at 405, you'd basically be breaking even on your shares, and the only profit that you'd be capturing would be the premium that you received. So that's a determination only you can make. Now, Hermes Lux likes the 10 deltas, and you can get like precious little premium. You know, the 11 delta at the 2 standard deviation line. This is pretty. I'm doing air quotes, mental air quotes here when I say this is pretty safe. So a 2 standard deviation move is approximately what, 95, 96% chance that you won't lose money here. So you could, in theory, you could just scrape, you know, tiny little bit of profit off of here. And I think he rolls these every couple of weeks or whatever. Like, let's look at, you know, if he had sold it for what, 192, what strike was it? 535. Yeah, if he sold it for 190 2 weeks ago, then he'd be able to buy it back for approximately 90 now. So the premium is just scraping little bits of profit off, but it makes it much easier to roll and protect your cost basis if that's something that you're interested in. But clearly, I'm not really worried about the covered calls that I sold, even these 357s and these 395s. And the reason is because I've got 136 delta of uncovered longs here. I've got 47 delta of uncovered long here. I've got 23 delta of uncovered long here. These poor men's covered calls are leveraged positions. So, in the poor men's covered calls, the net positive delta subtracting out the covered calls is another 200 delta. So some portion of that is uncovered. So in this particular case, I'm not afraid. Like, even my cost basis is like 364 here. I think it's even higher. Is it even higher in this account? Yeah, about 360. Let me go back to it, actually. Yeah, actually, this is a good example. So my cost basis in this account is 364. I'm actually selling covered calls under my cost basis. If I allowed these to get called away, I'd be losing $700. Excuse me, $7 per share, or $700 per contract. But the reason why this doesn't scare me is because of all of these long positions that I have. If I didn't have those, then yeah, absolutely, selling a covered call at or below my cost basis would risk, you know, losing money on that position. So I definitely feel your pain. So you either have to find a strike that's above your cost basis that you feel comfortable with, or stack some uncovered positions to protect your shares in the event that strategy goes to 450 overnight or something. What's up, Pikachu? Did you see strategy is in GRNY ETF? Coinbase Composite Futures product coming out on the 22nd has MAG7, IBIT, ETHA, and no strategy. Is that a Clinton quote for real? Now I'm interested. I'm gonna have to figure that out. Mentioning Bill Clinton is pretty topical as well. He probably goes along, matches up well with this description. Okay, so that's all of the Tasty Trade accounts. Let's see what's going on. Running the wheel in CLSK. Those expire on the 5th, Friday. Strive doing its thing. I ended up rolling the covered call down to the 5, so I'll probably have to deal with that. In the next couple of weeks, we'll see what Strive's price is going into expiration. Let me see here. Is this ready to roll? Might as well. Let's just go to the 400. That's been working out. Of course, no insta-fill. Let's do 4.5. All right, so that gave me an extra $450 to spend. It means I have $812. I don't think that's gonna get me. Well, I could go out and sell like a $8 CLSK at 45 DTE. Or I could do the dollar cost average into my Tesla calls. Where's my MSTR calls? I'm still riding these Decembers. See these debit spreads. These debit spreads are half price. Maybe I'll pick up 2. $600 left. Oh, weren't the March? I mean the February. Weren't the February options $600? There we go. Money spent. That should do it. All right, so it looks like we are all caught up on the chats. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Unfortunately, the subject matter was not pleasant, but probably necessary. And I think the final thoughts is going to be that as far as authenticity is concerned, Strategy is obviously the leader in the space. They are the ones that had the courage to do it first. So it will be interesting to see if they will be the first to have the courage to require their custodians to run knots, or to at least to refuse to upgrade to Core 30. I think that's the least that's the least we can ask or that we can expect. Um, so bitch about it, make your voice heard. Strategy at least seems to be listening to their shareholders. So if we demand that Strategy does a review of the Knots Core debate and the threat that Core is putting on the Bitcoin network, and whether that risk is worth allowing the Bitcoin that's being purchased on our behalf, if it's going to be guarded by, Luke Dasher, refers to Core as malware at this point. So it doesn't matter what MNAV you're buying my Bitcoin at. If you're protecting my Bitcoin with malware, then what good does it do me? So it'll be interesting to see if Strategy continues to be a leader in the space. They probably are the only ones that have enough clout to be able to get behind Bitcoin knots. Everybody else is just following in Strategy's footsteps anyway. They're just running Saylor's playbook. So if any Bitcoin treasury company is going to have the balls to do it, it's probably got to be them. I think Metaplanet, likes to brag about how they have proof of reserves, but proving that you own your Bitcoin and the Bitcoin becomes worthless is kind of a meaningless distinction. So if you want to distinguish yourself from the pack, being on the cutting edge of protecting the Bitcoin network could be a good way to do it. All right. I think that's enough for now. Be good, y'all.